The sword slashes through morning air. Blood sprays across frozen ground. A Persian warrior stands over an Ottoman janissary, his blade still trembling from impact. Around him, 30,000 Ottoman soldiers advance through the Armenian highlands. This warrior has minutes to live. His name is lost to history, but his commander would change the world. The man who ordered him to stand here wasn't born Persian. He wasn't born noble. He wasn't even born free. Yet in 2 hours, he would orchestrate the most devastating tactical victory of the 18th century. The Ottoman Empire, master of 3 continents, would lose more men in a single afternoon than they lost conquering Constantinople. And it would all happen in a valley they thought was their salvation. The warrior knows none of this. He knows only that his commander positioned them here for a reason, that Nader Shah doesn't make mistakes, that every Persian soldier in this valley was told the same thing before dawn. Hold your position, no matter what. Don't retreat, don't question, don't break, because the Ottomans are walking into a trap, and you are the bait. The warrior tightens his grip on his sword. He looks at the thousands of enemies advancing toward him. He takes a breath. Kaugo, he prepares to die, but he will die holding his position. Because that's what Nader ordered, and Nader's orders are never given lightly. The place is Garni. The date is 1735. The stakes are the future of Asia itself, and one of history's greatest military minds is about to prove that sometimes the best trap is the one your enemy desperately wants to believe in. But this story doesn't start in Armenia. It starts 8 years earlier, in the smoking ruins of Isfahan, where a slave soldier looked at his burning homeland and made a decision that would shake 3 empires. Nader Koli Beg stands in the ruins of Persia's capital. The Afghan invaders have killed his Shah. They've destroyed his army. They've torn apart the empire that once stretched from Baghdad to Delhi. Persian civilization, 1500 years of glory, lies broken in the dust. Nader isn't noble. He leads a Turkmen cavalry unit, mercenaries who fight for whoever pays. Born into poverty in Khorasan, sold into slavery as a child, he fought his way to freedom and earned command through raw talent and ruthless efficiency. The Afghan conquest should mean new employment opportunities. Whoever wins needs soldiers. Nader could switch sides, serve the new masters, keep collecting pay, but as he watches Persian women sold in slave markets, as he sees ancient libraries burned for warmth, as he hears Afghan soldiers mock Persian culture as weak and decadent, something hardens inside him. It's not patriotism. Not exactly. Nader never cared about the Safavid dynasty. The Shahs were corrupt, incompetent, lost in luxury while enemies circled. But Persia itself, the civilization, the culture, the idea that this land once ruled the known world, that matters, that's worth fighting for. Even if nobody asked him to, even if nobody believes he can, even if trying means standing against overwhelming odds, he makes a choice. Not because anyone asked him to, not because anyone believes he can, but because someone has to try. He starts recruiting. Not from the Persian aristocracy they fled, or died, or surrendered. He recruits from the same places he came from. Turkmen cavalry, Kurdish warriors, mercenaries who fight for money and glory, men who have nothing to lose and everything to prove. He promises them plunder. He promises them glory. But more than that, he promises them something Persian, society never offered before. Advancement based on merit. Fight well, and you rise. Fight poorly, and you're replaced. Your birth doesn't matter. Your connections don't matter. Only your ability to win battles matters. Within a year, Nader has found a Safavid prince hiding in the mountains. Tahamasp, weak and decisive, but legitimate. The bloodline matters to Persians. They won't follow a nobody, but they'll follow a nobody who claims to serve the rightful Shah. Nader kneels before Tahamasp in a mountain cave. The prince is grateful, desperate, convinced this general will restore him to his father's throne. Nader speaks words that will restore your throne. I will rebuild your throne. I will rebuild your empire, but you will do exactly what I tell you to do. Every military decision is mine. Every strategic choice is mine. You will be Shah in name, but I command in reality. Accept this, or find another general. The prince agrees. He has no choice. Nader has the army. Nader has the plan, And Nader has something no Persian commander has possessed in decades. He has absolute, merciless clarity about what needs to be done. The Safavid dynasty relied on feudal levies, aristocratic cavalry, traditional tactics that hadn't changed in centuries. Nader throws all of that away. He builds a professional army. Regular pay, standard training, promotion by merit. He studies Ottoman tactics and improves on them. He adopts European artillery techniques and adapts them for mobile warfare. He trains his cavalry to fight as coordinated units, not individual glory seekers. For 8 years, Nader fights. He doesn't just expel the Afghans, he destroys them. His first campaign is swift and brutal. The Afghans expect traditional Persian tactics, feudal levies attacking in predictable ways. Instead, Nader's cavalry strikes from unexpected directions. His artillery pounds Afghan positions with unprecedented accuracy. His infantry fights with discipline Afghan forces can't match. Within months, he's driven the invaders back to their home territories. Within a year, he's following them into Afghanistan itself. He doesn't just defeat them in battle, he systematically destroys their ability to threaten Persia ever again. But Nader doesn't stop there. He doesn't just restore Persian borders, he pushes them beyond anything the Safavids ever achieved. He fights the Ottomans in Azerbaijan, recovering territories lost decades earlier. He crushes the Uzbeks in Khorasan, securing the northern frontiers. He drives into Mughal India and takes back everything the Afghans stole, plus considerable loot from Mughal treasuries. Delhi itself pays tribute to avoid his wrath. By 1735, he has reclaimed every inch of Persian territory and added more. His army is hardened by constant warfare. His cavalry moves faster than anyone can track. His artillery strikes harder than anything in Asia. His reputation alone causes enemy armies to break before battle begins. The victories aren't bloodless. Nader fights with calculated brutality. Cities that resist are sacked. Enemies who surrender are spared. Commanders who betray him are executed publicly. His own soldiers respect him because he wins, pays on time, and shares plunder fairly. They fear him because he shows no mercy to incompetence or cowardice. Officers who fail in battle are demoted or dismissed. Soldiers who break under pressure are punished. But those who fight well are rewarded beyond anything previous Persian dynasties offered. A common soldier can become a commander in Nader's army. A tribal warrior can govern a province. All you need is the ability to win battles and the loyalty to follow orders without question. But there's a problem. The Ottoman Empire, the greatest power in the Islamic world, controls everything west of Persia: Armenian highlands, Kurdish mountains, Mesopotamian plains. And Ottoman Sultan Mahmud I watches Nader's rise with growing alarm. The reports from eastern governors are disturbing. This former slave isn't just winning battles, he's transforming Persian military power into something the region hasn't seen in centuries. Persian armies that once broke at the first Ottoman charge now fight with discipline and coordination. Persian cavalry that once scattered under pressure now executes complex tactical maneuvers. Persian artillery that once fired wildly now pounds enemy positions with devastating accuracy. Mahmud understands what this means. Nader isn't building an army to defend Persia. He's building an army to expand Persia, and the obvious direction for expansion is west, into Ottoman territory. The Sultan has intelligence reports detailing Nader's ambitions. The Persian commander has publicly stated his intention to reclaim all territories that once belonged to ancient Persian empires. That includes Baghdad. That includes parts of Anatolia. That potentially includes territories all the way to the Mediterranean. If Mahmud doesn't act now, while Nader is still consolidating his gains, the Ottoman Empire will face an existential threat on its eastern frontier. Mahmud decides Nader must be stopped, not with diplomacy, not with gold, with overwhelming military force that demonstrates Ottoman power remains unmatched. The Sultan orders his most experienced generals to assemble an army, not 10,000 men, not 20,000, 30,000 Ottoman soldiers, the largest expedition force the empire has sent east in decades. This isn't a punitive raid. This isn't a border skirmish. This is a full military campaign designed to crush Persian power before it grows stronger. The force composition reflects Ottoman military sophistication. 8,000 Janissaries form the infantry corps. These are professional soldiers, recruited as boys, trained for years, Veterans of campaigns across 3 continents. They've stormed Hungarian fortresses. They've broken Polish cavalry. They've held lines against Austrian artillery. They're armed with the latest muskets, organized in disciplined formations, led by officers who've commanded for decades. They're not the elite they were 2 centuries ago, when janissaries were the most feared infantry in the world, but they're still formidable. Well-trained, well-equipped, experienced. 10,000 Sipahi cavalry provide mobile striking power. These are Ottoman horsemen, drawn from military feudal estates across Anatolia and the Balkans. They're not as heavily armored as European knights, not as fast as Turkmen horse archers, but they're versatile. They can charge with lances, they can skirmish with bows, they can pursue broken enemies for miles. Many fought in the last war against Austria. Many campaigned in the Caucasus. They know mountain warfare. They know how to fight in terrain where heavy cavalry struggles. 5,000 irregular troops supplement the professional soldiers, Albanian mercenaries who fight for plunder, Kurdish auxiliaries who know the local terrain, Azeri horsemen who fought Persians before, Caucasian warriors recruited from the Caucasus. These men aren't as disciplined as janissaries or as well-trained as Sipahis, but they're fierce. They fight aggressively. They don't surrender. They're useful for scouting, raiding, creating chaos in enemy formations. 7,000 support personnel keep the army functioning. Artillery crews with 40 cannons, ranging from light field guns to heavy siege pieces, engineers who build roads and bridges, supply officers who manage the logistics train, camp followers who cook, clean, repair equipment, surgeons who treat wounded, imams who maintain morale. This support structure is what allows Ottoman armies to campaign far from their bases. They don't just march and fight. They maintain themselves in hostile territory for months. The commander is Koprulu Abdullah Pasha, a man from one of the Ottoman Empire's most distinguished military families. His great-grandfather was Koprulu Mehmed Pasha, who reformed the entire Ottoman state system in the 1650s. His grandfather campaigned against Austria. His father governed Syrian provinces. Abdullah himself has commanded armies in the Balkans and the Caucasus. He's fought Christians and Muslims. He's won battles and lost battles. He understands warfare at the highest level. He understands logistics. He understands politics. He understands that 30,000 men, properly supplied, properly led, can crush any force Nader can field in these mountains. Abdullah Pasha doesn't underestimate Nader. That would be fatal. He reads every intelligence report about the Persian commander. He studies every battle Nader has fought. He analyzes tactics, identifies patterns, looks for weaknesses. He knows Nader's reputation. The victories against the Afghans, the campaigns in India, the crushing of Uzbek forces. He knows Nader fights with cavalry speed and artillery precision. He knows Nader wins through maneuver warfare, striking where enemies are weakest, avoiding frontal assaults against prepared positions. But Abdullah also identifies limitations. Cavalry needs open ground. Mountains restrict movement. Narrow valleys channel troops into predictable approaches. And the Armenian highlands, where Persian and Ottoman territories meet, are nothing but mountains and valleys. If Abdullah can force battle in terrain that negates Nader's mobility advantage, numbers become decisive. 30,000 Ottoman soldiers in defensive positions will destroy any Persian force Nader can bring to these highlands. The math is simple. The strategy is sound. The execution requires only professional competence, which Abdullah possesses in abundance. Abdullah Pasha forms his strategy. He will advance into Armenia with overwhelming force. He will position his army in terrain that negates Nader's mobility advantage. He will force the Persian to attack prepared positions or abandon Armenian territory. Either way, the Sultan wins. Either Nader's army is destroyed, or Nader loses the highlands without a fight. Both outcomes are acceptable. The Ottoman army moves in September 1735. They march through Kurdish territories with flags flying and drums beating. They're not subtle. 30,000 men can't hide. The dust from their march is visible for miles. The sound of their drums echoes through valleys. Local Armenian villagers flee, some toward Ottoman lines, hoping for protection or opportunity, some toward Persian positions, warning of the approaching threat, all carrying the same message. The Ottomans are coming. The largest army anyone has seen in years is moving toward Persian territory. The march is slow but professional. Ottoman logistics are functioning perfectly. Supply trains keep pace with combat units. Artillery moves without breaking down. Engineers build temporary bridges over rivers. The army covers 15 miles per day, which is excellent for a force this size in mountain terrain. Abdullah Pasha maintains discipline. No looting of friendly villages, no unauthorized foraging, no breaking formation. This is a professional military operation, not a tribal raid. Persian scouts shadow the Ottoman advance. Small cavalry units watch from ridgelines. They note numbers, composition, movement speed, everything. They report back to Nader through a relay system that gets information to him within hours. Nader receives these reports at his command tent in Persian-controlled Armenia. His officers gather around maps, calculating Ottoman positions, projecting arrival times, discussing defensive options. The consensus among Nader's commanders is clear. Withdraw. The Ottomans have 30,000 soldiers. Intelligence suggests Nader can gather maybe 15,000 troops in this region without abandoning other critical positions. The math doesn't favor fighting here. The terrain doesn't favor cavalry maneuver warfare, which is Nader's specialty. Every tactical consideration suggests pulling back to better defensive positions. Make the Ottomans overextend their supply lines. Wait for winter, when mountain passes become impassable. Fight them in spring with reinforcements from deeper Persian territories. Nader listens to these arguments. He nods at appropriate moments. He asks clarifying questions. Then he issues orders that contradict everything his officers just recommended. The Persian army will advance directly toward the Ottoman force. They will position themselves at Garni Valley, directly in the path of the Ottoman advance. They will offer battle in terrain that supposedly favors the enemy. His officers are stunned. This isn't the Nader they know, the Nader who wins through superior mobility, the Nader who avoids disadvantages engagements, the Nader who chooses battlefields that maximize Persian advantages. One commander, a veteran Turkmen cavalry officer who served Nader for years, asks the obvious question: why are we doing this? Why are we positioning ourselves in a valley where our cavalry can't maneuver? Why are we fighting 30,000 Ottomans with 15,000 Persians in terrain that negates every advantage we have? Nader looks at this officer. The room goes quiet. Everyone wants the answer to these questions. Nader's response is simple: because Abdullah Pasha is a competent general. He studies battles. He analyzes tactics. He makes decisions based on what generals are supposed to do. And because he's competent, he will do exactly what we need him to do. He will see our position at Garni. He will analyze it. He will conclude that we've made a fatal mistake. He will commit his entire force to destroying us, and that commitment will destroy him. The officers don't understand, not yet, but they've learned to trust Nader's judgment. He's won too many battles. He's turned too many impossible situations into victories. If he says this is the plan, then this is the plan. They don't need to understand why. They just need to execute orders. And Nader's orders are very specific. The main army moves to Garni Valley. 15,000 soldiers in clear view. Cavalry commanders are told where to position their wings. Infantry commanders receive deployment instructions. Artillery crews are assigned firing positions, but 10,000 cavalry receive different orders. These are the best riders in the Persian army. Turkmen horsemen who grew up on horses, they're given detailed instructions. They will move to positions in the hills surrounding Garni Valley, not obvious positions, not the ridgelines where scouts naturally look. They will position themselves in depressions, behind minor terrain features, in places that don't look like they could hide cavalry units. They will move at night. They will not light fires. They will not create dust clouds. They will do nothing that might reveal their presence to Ottoman scouts. And they will wait there, sometimes for days, without moving, until the signal comes to attack. This part of the plan makes sense to cavalry commanders. It's an ambush, a trap. Lure the enemy into the valley, then hit them from the flanks. But the scale is unprecedented. Hiding 10,000 horsemen in terrain the Ottomans will thoroughly scout, keeping them concealed for potentially days while enemy reconnaissance patrols search the area. The risk is enormous. If Ottoman scouts discover the hidden cavalry before the trap is sprung, the entire plan collapses. Abdullah Pasha will withdraw or adjust his approach. The element of surprise will be lost, and 15,000 Persians in Garni Valley will be exposed to destruction by 30,000 Ottomans without the ambush force to save them. Nader acknowledges the risk. He also explains why it will work. Ottoman scouts will search for ambush positions. but they'll search in predictable places. Near the valley entrance where cavalry could hit Ottoman rear guards, on obvious high ground overlooking the valley, where archers or artillery could fire down on advancing troops. They'll search in places where military logic says ambush forces should be. They won't search thoroughly in positions that don't make tactical sense, positions too far from the valley to strike quickly, positions without clear lines of advance, positions that would require cavalry to navigate difficult terrain to reach the battle. The Persian cavalry will hide in exactly those positions, the ones that don't make sense, the ones scouts will glance at and dismiss as irrelevant. And they'll wait there, in complete silence, in absolute stillness, for as long as it takes. When the Ottomans commit their full force to the valley, when retreat becomes impossible, when Abdullah Pasha is completely focused on crushing the Persian army ahead of him, that's when the hidden cavalry will attack. Not immediately, not obviously, but at the exact moment when their appearance creates maximum psychological shock and tactical disruption. The Persian army reaches Garni Valley in late September. It's a narrow depression in the Armenian highlands, surrounded by rocky hills that rise gradually on both sides. A small river runs through the valley floor, providing water but also creating muddy patches that will complicate cavalry movement. Ancient Armenian ruins dot the landscape. A pagan temple, somehow surviving centuries of Christian and Muslim conquest, stands on elevated ground near the valley's eastern end. The valley is maybe 2 miles long from entrance to far end, less than a mile wide at its broadest point. High ground on both sides restricts long-range visibility. Anyone entering this valley from the west is committed. There's no easy retreat once you're inside, not with an army of any size. The valley narrows at its far end, creating a natural bottleneck. Nader personally selects the Persian deployment position. He chooses ground at the eastern end, the narrowest part of the valley. His back is essentially against the hills rising beyond. It looks like terrible defensive terrain. Any competent general would choose a position with clear retreat routes, with room to maneuver if the battle turns against them. Nader is doing the opposite. He's positioning his force in a location that offers almost no escape options. If the Ottomans break through Persian lines, Nader's army will be trapped against the hills. It's the kind of position desperate commanders choose when they have no better options. Nader deploys 15,000 Persian soldiers in clear view of anyone entering the valley. Infantry forms the center, arranged in 3 lines. The front line holds regular Persian infantry, musket-armed soldiers trained in volley fire tactics. The second line consists of tribal warriors, armed with a mix of firearms and traditional weapons. The third line is the reserve, ready to plug gaps or exploit opportunities. Total infantry strength is about 8,000 men. Not enough to match Ottoman janissaries in a straight firefight, but enough to hold position for a while. Cavalry deploys on the wings. Each wing has about 2,000 horsemen, drawn from various tribal levies. Mostly light cavalry, fast-moving riders with limited armor. They're positioned where cavalry normally goes, but everyone in the Persian army knows these riders can't do much. The valley sides are too steep for effective charges. The ground is too broken for coordinated cavalry maneuvers. They're there because armies put cavalry on wings, not because anyone expects them to accomplish much. Artillery positions behind the infantry lines. They're 15 guns, ranging from light field pieces to medium cannons. They're protected by earthworks thrown up overnight. The gun crews are Persian regulars, trained by European mercenary advisors, who, Nader, hired years ago. They know their business. But 15 guns against whatever artillery the Ottomans bring won't win any duel. The Persian artillery is present to provide support, inflict casualties, maybe slow Ottoman advances, not to dominate the battlefield. This deployment takes all day. Ottoman scouts watch from distant ridgelines. They note positions, count banners, estimate strengths. Everything they see confirms what Abdullah Pasha suspected. The Persians are trapped. They're in a valley with no escape route, with forces too small to resist 30,000 Ottomans, with cavalry positioned where it's useless. Nader has made a catastrophic strategic error. He either didn't understand the terrain, or he overestimated his ability to hold this position, or he simply had no better option. Whatever the reason, he's created perfect conditions for his own destruction. The hidden cavalry moves during this same period. 10,000 riders, split into smaller groups, infiltrate positions in the hills surrounding the valley. They don't move as one mass. That would create dust clouds visible for miles. They move in groups of 500 to 1,000, using different approaches, traveling through depressions that shield them from observation. They reach their assigned positions throughout the day and night before the battle. Once positioned, they stop moving entirely. No fires, no noise, no activity that might attract attention. They wait. Some of these cavalry units are positioned on the northern hills overlooking the valley, others on the southern hills. Some are far enough forward that they can strike the Ottoman army's rear once it enters the valley. Others are positioned to hit the flanks. A few units are held in reserve, ready to reinforce wherever the attack is most successful. The positioning is complex, coordinated, based on Nader's detailed understanding of how the battle will develop. Each cavalry commander has specific instructions about when to attack, where to strike, how long to engage before withdrawing. This isn't a simple ambush. It's a choreographed assault designed to create maximum disruption. Ottoman scouts search these hills. They're professional soldiers. They know ambush tactics. They search the obvious positions, the ridgelines overlooking the valley entrance, the high ground near the valley center, places where ambush forces could strike effectively. They find nothing, because there's nothing to find in those locations. The Persian cavalry isn't positioned where it's supposed to be. It's positioned where it's not supposed to be, in locations that don't make immediate tactical sense. And because scouts don't find anything in the obvious places, they report that the hills are clear. No ambush threat. The Persian force in the valley is all Nader has in this area. Abdullah Pasha receives these reports with satisfaction. The scouts searched thoroughly. They found nothing. Which means the Persian position is exactly what it appears to be. A desperate defensive stand by a commander who has no better options. Abdullah studies maps in his command tent. He calculates approach routes, deployment positions, assault formations. The valley is narrow, which limits how many troops he can deploy simultaneously, but it also limits Persian ability to maneuver. He'll advance his janissaries in the center, a solid mass of infantry that will grind through Persian resistance. His Sipahi cavalry will secure the flanks, preventing any Persian attempts to escape. His artillery will bombard Persian positions from protected locations in the rear. The battle plan is straightforward, professional. Exactly what a competent Ottoman commander would devise. Overwhelming force applied methodically. No risks. No fancy maneuvers. Just 30,000 soldiers crushing 15,000 enemies who have nowhere to run. Abdullah estimates the battle will last half a day. By afternoon, Persian resistance will collapse. Nader will either die fighting or be captured trying to escape. The Persian threat to Ottoman eastern territories will be eliminated. The Sultan will be pleased, and Abdullah's family will add another military victory to their distinguished legacy. On the evening before battle, Ottoman forces camp just outside the valley entrance. 30,000 men in an organized military camp. Tents arranged in neat rows. Sentries posted at regular intervals, officers briefing their units on tomorrow's assault, soldiers checking weapons, sharpening swords, cleaning muskets. There's confidence in the camp, not arrogance, but professional certainty. They have overwhelming numerical advantage. They have better equipment. They have more experienced commanders. The Persians have courage, but courage isn't enough. Tomorrow will be a victory. Difficult, perhaps bloody, but certain. In the Persian camp at the valley's far end, the mood is different. Soldiers know they're outnumbered. They can see Ottoman campfires. They can estimate enemy strength. 15,000 men preparing to face 30,000. The math is brutal. But they also know they're led by Nader, the general who destroyed the Afghans, who conquered territory from India to the Caucasus, who hasn't lost a major battle in 8 years. If Nader positioned them here, he has a plan. They don't know what the plan is, but they trust it exists. They check their weapons. They say prayers. They prepare to fight, not because they understand the strategy, because they trust the strategist. Abdullah Pasha orders the advance at dawn on November 20th, 1735. The sun is just rising over the Armenian highlands. Morning mist still clings to the valley floor. The Ottoman army moves forward in good order. Drums beat the advance. Banners wave in cold wind. 30,000 soldiers flow into Garni Valley like a slow-motion tide, disciplined and professional. The Janissaries advance in the center, 8,000 infantry soldiers moving in coordinated formations. They don't march in solid blocks. They advance in lines with intervals between units. maintaining cohesion while allowing flexibility. Officers march alongside their men, calling out pace and direction. The Janissaries are veterans. Many have fought in multiple campaigns. They know how to maintain formation over rough ground. They know how to respond to officer commands without hesitation. They step over rocks, navigate muddy patches near the river, adjust spacing to accommodate terrain variations. They're not fast, but they're steady. Professional soldiers doing what they've trained for years to do. The Sipahi cavalry spreads across both flanks, 5,000 horsemen on each side. They move more slowly than usual because the valley sides are steeper than they looked from a distance. Horses pick their way carefully over rocky ground. Riders control their mounts with experience gained over years of mountain warfare. The cavalry isn't charging. Not yet. They're positioning themselves to prevent any Persian attempts to escape around the flanks. Once the Janissaries engage Persian infantry, the Sipahis will exploit any gaps, pursue any units that break, and prevent any organized retreat. Ottoman artillery moves into position in the rear, 40 cannons being wheeled to firing positions just inside the valley entrance. This takes time. Artillery crews need solid ground to emplace their guns. They need clear firing lanes to hit Persian positions. They need protection from potential Persian counterfire. Gun crews work methodically, digging small earthworks, positioning guns for optimal elevation, calculating ranges to Persian positions, loading the first charges. The artillery won't fire immediately. They'll wait until Ottoman infantry is close enough that Persian formations are forced to concentrate, making them better targets. From his position at the valley's far end, Nader watches the Ottoman deployment through a brass telescope, an Italian import, expensive, one of the few luxuries he permits himself. He tracks the Janissary advance, notes their formation discipline, observes how cavalry positions itself on the flanks, counts artillery pieces being emplaced. Everything is proceeding exactly as he predicted. Abdullah Pasha is doing what competent generals do, advancing with overwhelming force, maintaining unit cohesion, positioning assets for maximum effect. Professional warfare by the book. Nader lowers the telescope. He looks at his own army, Persian infantry standing in their lines, watching 30,000 enemies approach. Some soldiers are nervous, some are calm. All are waiting for orders. Nader's voice carries across the formation. Hold position. Let them come. Don't fire until I give the command. The message passes down the lines. Officers repeat it to their units. Soldiers nod, understanding. They steady their muskets. They check their powder. They wait. The Ottoman advance continues. The Janissaries are now halfway through the valley. The leading Ottoman units are perhaps 800 yards from Persian positions, close enough to see individual soldiers, close enough to hear Persian officers calling out commands, close enough to smell the sulfur from Persian matchlocks being prepared, but not yet close enough for effective musket fire. 18th century smoothbore muskets are accurate to maybe 100 yards, effective to 50 yards, devastating at point-blank range. 1800 yards means nothing. Abdullah Pasha watches from his command position near the valley entrance. Everything is developing perfectly. His army is flowing into the valley without disorder. His Janissaries are advancing steadily. His cavalry is positioning correctly. His artillery is almost ready to fire. The Persians are holding their ground, which means they intend to fight rather than retreat. That's ideal. Let them stand and die. Easier than pursuing them through mountains. The battle will be over by midday. Overwhelming victory. Minimal complications. At 600 yards, Ottoman artillery opens fire. The sound is enormous in the narrow valley. 40 cannons firing within seconds of each other. The noise echoes off the hills, multiplying, creating a continuous roar. Smoke billows from gun positions. The first shells arc through the air toward Persian positions. Most miss artillery at this range against troops in the open is more psychological than effective, but some shells find their mark. One smashes into a Persian infantry formation, killing 3 men and wounding 5 more. Another lands just behind Persian lines, creating a geyser of dirt, but causing no casualties. A third bounces off rocky ground and tumbles through a supply area, crushing 2 soldiers who were bringing ammunition forward. Persian artillery responds. 15 guns fire almost simultaneously. They're outnumbered, but they're well positioned and well served. One shot strikes an Ottoman artillery position, killing 2 crew members and damaging a gun's wheel. Another falls among Janissary formations, killing 1 soldier and forcing nearby units to briefly scatter. Most shots miss, just like most Ottoman shots. Artillery fire at this range is about creating noise, smoke, psychological pressure, letting soldiers know they're under fire, making them nervous, testing their discipline. The Janissaries don't break, they continue advancing. 500 yards now, 450, 400. They're moving deliberately, not rushing. Ottoman commanders know what they're doing. Close the distance steadily. Don't give Persian musket fire more opportunities than necessary. When you're close enough for effective fire, you'll be close enough to charge immediately after your volley. Minimize the time spent in the killing zone. At 300 yards, Persian artillery switches to canister shot. These are canisters filled with metal balls, turning cannons into giant shotguns. Devastating at closer ranges, the effect on Ottoman formations is immediate. One canister round tears through a Janissary unit, killing 7 men and wounding a dozen more. Another creates a gap in Ottoman lines where a squad simply ceases to exist. The Janissaries close ranks, officers call out orders, units adjust formation to fill gaps. Men step over dead comrades without stopping. This is what professional soldiers do. They endure casualties and continue their mission. 200 yards. The Ottoman advance slows slightly. Officers are preparing their units for the final assault. They need men in tighter formations for the charge. They need to coordinate the attack so units hit Persian lines simultaneously. They need everyone ready to exploit the breakthrough that will come when Persian resistance collapses under overwhelming pressure. The Janissaries adjust their lines, dress their ranks, check their muskets one final time. Bayonets are fixed. Officers draw their swords. The moment is approaching. Nader watches the Ottomans prepare. He can see officers organizing their men. He can see the Janissaries getting ready to charge. He can see Sipahi cavalry on the flanks, ready to pursue once Persian infantry breaks. Everything the Ottomans are doing is correct. Standard tactics for this type of assault: overwhelming force, overwhelming smaller defenders. But standard tactics assume you know where all the forces are. They assume the 15,000 Persians you can see are all the Persians present. They assume you're fighting the battle you think you're fighting. At 150 yards, the Janissaries fire their first volley. 8,000 muskets discharging almost simultaneously. The sound is a continuous roar. Smoke obscures everything. The volley is poorly aimed, but some rounds find targets. Persian soldiers fall. 10 dead. 20 wounded. Gaps appear in Persian lines. Officers call for reserves to fill the gaps. The gaps fill. The Persian line holds. Persian infantry returns fire. 8,000 muskets, answering 8,000 muskets. The effect is similar. Smoke, noise, some casualties, some wounded. The killing is mutual. Neither side has advantage. This is the reality of 18th century infantry combat. Mass musket fire at medium range kills some people, wounds more, and terrifies everyone. But it doesn't break professional formations. That requires sustained fire, artillery bombardment, cavalry charges, and the psychological pressure of imminent defeat. The Janissaries reload. 30 seconds to pour powder down a barrel, insert a ball, ram it home, prime the pan, cock the lock. 30 seconds of vulnerability when you can't fire. Persian infantry is reloading too. Same 30 seconds, same vulnerability. The timing of who finishes first matters. Fire first, you inflict casualties before the enemy can respond. Fire second, you're shooting at an enemy that's already reloading and can't immediately shoot back. It's a deadly calculation. Nader watches from his position. His cavalry commanders are nervous. They can see the battle developing. Persian infantry is trading volleys with Janissaries. Artillery is firing from both sides. This looks like every other infantry battle fought in these highlands. Except it's not, because what Abdullah Pasha sees from the valley floor isn't what Nader sees from his elevated position. The Ottoman commander is looking ahead at Persian formations, calculating how many more volleys before Persian resistance collapses, planning his final assault. Nader is looking at the hills surrounding the valley, hills where 10,000 Persian cavalry have been waiting for 3 days, hidden behind ridgelines, positioned in depressions invisible from the valley floor. scattered in small groups that don't create obvious shadows or disturb vegetation patterns. They've been there since before the Ottomans arrived. They haven't lit fires. They haven't moved unnecessarily. They've done nothing that might reveal their presence. And now, finally, the moment has come. The Ottoman army is fully committed to the valley. All 30,000 soldiers are inside. The Janissaries are engaged with Persian infantry at the valley's far end. The Sipahi cavalry is positioned on the flanks, watching for Persian attempts to escape. The artillery is firing from positions near the valley entrance. The entire Ottoman force is concentrated in a space 2 miles long, less than a mile wide. They're not shoulder to shoulder, but they're dense. Units are close together. Lines of communication are compressed. Every Ottoman soldier is focused on the battle ahead of them. The Persian army they can see, the enemy they're about to destroy. That's when Nader springs the trap. A signal flag rises from Persian positions, red silk catching morning sun, visible to anyone watching for it, invisible to anyone focused on the infantry battle. On the hill surrounding the valley, cavalry commanders see the signal. They've been waiting for hours, sometimes days, for this moment. They give quiet orders to their units. Mount up, prepare to attack. Don't make noise yet. Let the first units appear before everyone charges. Maximum surprise, maximum psychological impact. The northern hillside moves first. What appear to be empty ridgelines suddenly reveals horsemen. Hundreds of riders emerging from behind terrain. Features, they don't charge immediately. They appear, forming a line along the northern hill. More riders appear. More units join the line. The line extends along the entire northern side of the valley. 5,000 Persian cavalry, where the Ottomans thought there were none. Where scouts searched and found nothing. Where standard military logic said ambush forces shouldn't be positioned. 5,000 riders becoming visible simultaneously. The southern hillside echoes the movement seconds later. More cavalry appearing. More riders forming lines. Another 5,000 horsemen materializing on the southern hills. The valley is suddenly bracketed by 10,000 Persian cavalry, positionings on both sides, stretching from the valley entrance to its far end. A continuous line of horsemen where moments before there was nothing. For several seconds, nobody moves. The Persian cavalry just sits there, visible waiting, a line of horsemen along both sides of the valley. The psychological effect on the Ottoman army is immediate and devastating. Soldiers stop what they're doing. Janissaries pause their advance. Sipahi cavalry commanders halt their units. Artillery crews stop loading their guns. Everyone is looking at the hills, looking at the cavalry, trying to process what they're seeing. Where did they come from? How many are there? How long have they been there? Why didn't our scouts find them? The questions ripple through Ottoman ranks faster than any officer command. Men turn to each other. Some point, some stare. Some simply stand frozen, trying to understand what's happening. Officers try to maintain control. They shout orders, turn to face the hills, prepare to receive cavalry, reform lines. The professional discipline of the Ottoman army kicks in. Units begin to respond. Janissaries start forming squares, the traditional infantry defense against cavalry. Sipahi commanders try to reorient their horsemen to counter the Persian cavalry. Artillery crews realize their guns are positioned to fire forward into the valley, not upward at hillsides, and begin the complex process of repositioning heavy cannons. Infantry formations take time to reorganize. Cavalry takes time to re-idex. Artillery takes even longer to reposition. And time is what the Ottomans don't have, because the Persian cavalry isn't waiting. The northern hillside units charge first. 5,000 horsemen surging down the slope toward Ottoman positions. They don't charge in a single mass. That would create a traffic jam. They charge in waves. The first wave is maybe 1,000 riders. They pick their route down the hillside, avoiding the steepest terrain, guiding their horses over rocky ground, with skill earned from years in the saddle. They're screaming, making noise, creating chaos. The psychological effect is what matters. 10,000 Ottoman soldiers suddenly realize they're about to be hit by cavalry attack from a direction they didn't expect, couldn't prepare for, didn't know was possible. The first Persian cavalry wave hits the Ottoman left flank. They're not trying to penetrate deep into Ottoman formations. That would be suicide. 18th century cavalry attacking infantry in good order is asking to be slaughtered, but these janissaries aren't in good order. They're trying to reform from line into square. They're trying to respond to threats from two directions. They're confused, off balance, vulnerable. The Persian cavalry strikes the edges. They kill officers first, target commanders, create leadership voids, then they kill whoever they can reach, slash with swords, fire pistols point blank, create casualties, create chaos, then retreat before Ottoman infantry can concentrate enough firepower to stop them. The southern hillside cavalry charges seconds later. Same technique, same targets, 5,000 riders hitting the Ottoman right flank in coordinated waves. They know the ground because they scouted it while hiding in the hills. They know where the Ottoman units are because they've been watching for hours. They know when to attack and when to withdraw because their commanders coordinated this before the battle started. This isn't a spontaneous cavalry assault. It's a choreographed attack designed to create maximum disruption while minimizing Persian casualties. Abdullah Pasha realizes within seconds that he's lost control. His army is no longer executing his battle plan. His forces are reacting to threats from multiple directions. His janissaries are trying to defend against cavalry attacks from the flanks while maintaining pressure on Persian infantry to their front. His Sipahi cavalry is trying to counter Persian horsemen, but the terrain advantage is overwhelming. Ottoman cavalry has to climb rocky slopes while taking fire. They charge downhill, use momentum and surprise, strike edges, then retreat before Ottoman forces can respond effectively. His artillery can't elevate enough to hit cavalry on hillsides. The guns are positioned wrong, angled wrong, unable to pivot quickly enough to engage fast-moving targets. On steep terrain, Persian infantry increases pressure from the front. They're not just defending anymore, they're advancing. Slowly, steadily, firing as they move. The janissaries are now being squeezed, cavalry hitting them from both sides, infantry pressing from the front. The valley that was supposed to restrict Persian mobility is restricting Ottoman ability to maneuver. The overwhelming numbers that should have been decisive are meaningless because the Ottomans can't deploy them effectively. The forces are packed too tightly to respond to multiple threats. Units are interfering with each other. Officers can't communicate across the compressed battlefield. Every advantage the Ottomans possessed has become disadvantage. The Persian cavalry continues attacking in waves. They don't stay engaged. They strike, kill, retreat. Then another wave attacks. Then another. The janissaries are bleeding from thousands of cuts. No single cavalry attack is devastating, but the cumulative effect is catastrophic. Officers are dying. Unit cohesion is crumbling. Soldiers are losing confidence. Some janissary units maintain discipline. They form squares. They present walls of bayonets to charging cavalry. They fire organized volleys. These units survive. But many units can't maintain formation. The cavalry attacks are coming too fast. From too many directions. Leaders are being killed faster than they can be replaced. Commands aren't reaching the men who need to hear them. The professional Ottoman army is becoming a confused mass of soldiers who don't know what to do. Abdullah Pasha makes the decision every general dreads. Retreat. Get out of this valley before the entire army is destroyed. He sends runners to his unit commanders. Pull back. Maintain order. Fighting retreat to the valley entrance. We've lost this battle, but we can save the army. The orders spread through Ottoman ranks. Some commanders receive them. Some don't because the runners carrying messages are killed by cavalry attacks or can't find their target units in the chaos. Some units begin withdrawing immediately. Some keep fighting because they never got the order. The coordinated Ottoman assault becomes an uncoordinated Ottoman retreat. Retreat from a narrow valley with 30,000 men is complicated in the best circumstances. This isn't the best circumstances. The valley entrance is 2 miles behind the forward elements. To retreat, the entire army has to turn around, maintain some cohesion, and move back through the same constricted space they advanced through. But they can't simply turn around as individuals. Infantry needs to maintain formations or they'll be slaughtered by pursuing cavalry. Artillery needs to withdraw its guns or abandon valuable weapons. Supply trains need to reverse direction without creating traffic jams. All of this requires coordination, communication, and discipline, all of which are deteriorating rapidly under Persian pressure. The Ottoman army begins withdrawing. The rearguard units, positioned near the valley entrance, start pulling back first. This makes sense tactically. Clear the exit so forward units can retreat through it. But psychologically, it creates problems. Soldiers in forward positions see rear units retreating. They interpret this as abandonment. The army is leaving without us. We're being sacrificed. Fear spreads faster than any officer command. Some forward units break formation. They stop listening to orders. They start moving toward the valley entrance without coordination. With adjacent units, gaps appear in Ottoman lines. Persian cavalry sees the gaps and exploits them immediately. They're not attacking in careful waves anymore. They're pursuing aggressively. They smell victory. They can feel the Ottoman army collapsing. Cavalry charges become more frequent, more aggressive, more devastating. They target the gaps in Ottoman formations. They ride down isolated units. They kill soldiers who are trying to retreat rather than fight. The killing accelerates. One Ottoman soldier falls, then 10, then 100. The valley floor starts filling with bodies. Some Ottoman units maintain discipline. Veteran Janissary formations form fighting squares, bristling with bayonets on all sides. Cavalry can't break them. These units retreat slowly, methodically, presenting deadly force to any Persian horsemen who get too close. They fire organized volleys at approaching cavalry. They maintain formation integrity. They protect each other. These professional soldiers know how to conduct a fighting retreat. They've done it before. They'll do it again. They take casualties, but they maintain cohesion. They move toward the valley entrance at a controlled pace, defending themselves every step of the way. But many units aren't this disciplined. The irregulars break first. Albanian mercenaries who fight for plunder see the battle is lost and decide individual survival matters more than unit cohesion. They drop their weapons and run. Kurdish auxiliaries scatter into the hills, trying to escape through terrain they know better than the Persians. Azeri horsemen attempt to fight their way out, charging toward the valley entrance without coordination with other Ottoman forces. The irregular troops who were useful for scouting and raiding prove useless for organized retreat under pressure. The Sipahi cavalry tries to screen the retreat. This is what cavalry is supposed to do: protect withdrawing infantry from pursuing enemies, but the Ottoman cavalry is outnumbered by Persian horsemen and fighting on disadvantageous terrain. Every time Sipahis try to form a defensive line, Persian cavalry attacks from multiple directions. The Ottoman horsemen are brave, they're experienced, they fight hard, but they're fighting uphill against enemies who have all the advantages. Ottoman cavalry units are worn down, scattered. Some break and run, some fight to the last man. None can effectively screen the retreat they're supposed to protect. The panic spreads like fire through dry grass. One Ottoman unit breaks completely. Soldiers throw down weapons and sprint toward the valley entrance. They're running for their lives, not thinking about formations or tactics or anything except survival. Their panic is contagious. Adjacent units see men running and think maybe they should run too. Maybe staying in formation is suicide. Maybe individual flight is the only chance. More units break, more soldiers run. The organized fighting retreat becomes a disorganized rout. Thousands of Ottoman soldiers trying to escape through a narrow valley, while Persian cavalry hunts them like wolves hunting sheep. The Persian horsemen are relentless. They ride down fleeing Ottomans. They slash with swords. They fire pistols at point-blank range. They trample men who fall. They show no mercy because no mercy was expected in 18th century warfare. This is how battles ended. The side that breaks gets slaughtered. The victors pursue until they're too exhausted to continue, or until night falls, or until someone orders them to stop. Nader hasn't ordered them to stop. The Persian cavalry keeps killing. The valley floor becomes a carpet of bodies. Ottoman blood soaks into Armenian soil. Weapons litter the ground. Abandoned muskets, dropped swords, discarded equipment, supply wagons overturned in the chaos. Artillery pieces abandoned by crews who chose life over trying to drag heavy guns through a panicking mob. The beautiful professional army that entered the valley this morning has become a bleeding, terrified mass of men trying desperately to reach safety. Some Ottoman artillery crews try to save their guns. These are valuable weapons, expensive, difficult to replace. The crews harness horses, attempt to wheel the cannons toward the valley entrance, but panicking infantry block the routes. Supply wagons create traffic jams. Fleeing cavalry crashes through everything. The artillery crews realize they can't save the guns. Some abandon the weapons and run. Some stay with their guns and are killed by pursuing Persian cavalry. Most of the 40 Ottoman cannons that enter the valley remain in Persian hands, the largest artillery capture in any Persian victory in decades. Infantry formations that try to maintain order are overrun. Persian cavalry identifies units that still have cohesion and targets them specifically. These formations are dangerous. They can still fight. They need to be broken. The cavalry attacks from multiple directions simultaneously. They accept casualties to break these units. Once the formations shatter, once soldiers start running, the slaughter accelerates. Organized resistance becomes individual flight. Individual flight becomes mass panic. Mass panic becomes mass panic. The valley entrance becomes a killing ground. Thousands of Ottoman soldiers trying to squeeze through a narrow gap. They're packed shoulder to shoulder. They can't maneuver. They can't defend themselves effectively. Persian cavalry rides along the edges of this mass, killing anyone within reach. Some Ottomans try to climb the valley sides, escaping upward rather than forward. Some succeed. Most don't. Steep terrain, rocky ground, men falling, men being shot, men tumbling back down into the mass of soldiers below. Abdullah Pasha survives. He's near the rear of the Ottoman army when the retreat begins. He manages to exit the valley with his personal guard before the complete collapse. He watches from outside the valley entrance as his army is destroyed. Unit after unit streaming past him, some in good order, most in complete disorder, all fleeing, all bleeding, all defeated. He knows his career is over. He led 30,000 soldiers into an obvious trap. Every mistake a general can make, he made. He ignored reconnaissance limitations. He underestimated his opponent. He committed his entire force without securing retreat routes. He allowed himself to be surrounded in terrain that favored the enemy. The Sultan will want explanations. The Sultan will demand accountability. Abdullah's distinguished family legacy will be tarnished by this defeat. The slaughter continues for hours. The Persian cavalry pursues fleeing Ottomans for miles beyond the valley. They kill stragglers. They capture soldiers too exhausted to continue running. They round up hundreds of prisoners. The pursuit only stops when the Persian horses are too tired to continue, or when darkness falls and tracking becomes impossible. By that point, the Ottoman army has ceased to exist as a coherent military force. It's scattered groups of survivors trying to reach Ottoman territory. Individual soldiers wandering through Armenian highlands, small bands of men who managed to stay together, but not an army. Never again an army. The final count is horrific. 20,000 Ottoman soldiers dead, wounded, or captured. 20,000 men from history's greatest Islamic empire, destroyed in a single afternoon. The worst Ottoman defeat in a field battle since the disaster at Vienna, decades earlier. Some Ottoman units escape intact. Maybe 10,000 men total, who were positioned near the valley entrance, who received a retreat order early, who maintained enough discipline to withdraw in good order before complete collapse. But 2/3 of the Ottoman army is gone, killed on the battlefield, drowned trying to cross rivers during panicked flight, captured by Persian cavalry, died of wounds in the days following the battle. The loss is staggering. Nader doesn't pursue beyond a certain point. His cavalry is exhausted. His men have been fighting all day. More importantly, he's accomplished his objective. The Ottoman threat is eliminated. The Sultan's attempt to stop Persian expansion has failed catastrophically. Nader orders his cavalry to return to the battlefield, secure the area, take prisoners, collect weapons, gather supplies. The plunder is immense. 40 cannons, thousands of muskets, tons of gunpowder. Food supplies meant to sustain 30,000 men, tents, equipment, everything the Ottomans abandoned in their panicked flight. Enough weapons to equip several Persian armies, enough supplies to fund campaigns for years, enough gold taken from prisoners to fill treasuries. Because this wasn't just a military victory, this was a statement, a message delivered in blood and steel to every power in Asia. The Ottoman Empire, master of 3 continents, has been humiliated, not by another empire, not by a coalition of enemies, by a Persian army led by a former slave, in a battle where Ottoman forces had every advantage, except the one that mattered. A commander who understood that in warfare, the best position isn't always the obvious one. The psychological impact of Garni will echo for decades. Ottoman generals will second-guess themselves, will wonder if the enemy force they can see is the only enemy force present, will hesitate to commit fully to battles they think they should win. This hesitation will cost them victories in future wars. News of Garni spreads across Asia with the speed that only military disasters can travel. Merchants carry the story along trade routes. Refugees fleeing the battle tell and retell what they witnessed. Persian couriers ride to distant provinces with official reports. Within weeks, every court from Constantinople to Delhi knows what happened. The details vary. Some reports exaggerate Persian numbers, some minimize Ottoman casualties. But the core truth is undeniable. 30,000 Ottoman soldiers entered Armenia. Fewer than 10,000 returned. The Ottoman Empire's reputation for military invincibility has been shattered. In Constantinople, Sultan Mahmud receives the reports with growing horror. His throne room falls silent as the messenger delivers the news. 20,000 soldiers destroyed. The empire's largest eastern expedition force annihilated. Officers he knew personally are dead. Generals from distinguished families killed or captured. 40 cannons lost. Supplies abandoned. The financial cost is enormous. The strategic cost is incalculable. And the man who caused this disaster is clearly the most dangerous general in Asia. Not just dangerous because he wins battles, dangerous because he wins battles everyone thinks he should lose, because he sees possibilities no one else imagines, because he turns his enemies' certainties into their doom. Mahmud realizes he can't defeat Nader militarily, not in these highlands, not with conventional tactics, not when Persian cavalry can materialize from nowhere and destroy armies twice their size. The Sultan has limited options. He can send another army, but who would lead it? What general wants to follow Abdullah Pasha's path to disaster? He can try different tactics, but Nader has proven he adapts faster than his enemies. He can wait for Nader to die or be overthrown, but the Persian commander is only 48 years old and shows no signs of slowing down. The Sultan needs peace. Favorable terms if possible, acceptable terms if necessary. Any terms that stop Nader from threatening Ottoman territory. Ottoman envoys travel to Nader's camp carrying proposals. Territory negotiations, border adjustments, trade agreements, gold payments. The Sultan is offering everything except what Nader actually wants, which is recognition that Persia is now a major power that the Ottoman Empire must respect. The negotiations take months. Nader holds all the cards. He can demand almost anything. He chooses to be surprisingly reasonable. He wants some territorial adjustments in the Caucasus, recognition of Persian influence in certain border regions, and most importantly, acknowledgement that Persian military power matches Ottoman power. The Ottomans agree to everything. They sign a treaty in 1736 that gives Nader most of what he wants, not because they want to, because they have no choice, but the treaty with the Ottomans is just one front. Nader has bigger plans, much bigger. Garni proved something important, not just that he can defeat the Ottomans, that he can defeat anyone, that his army, his tactics, his strategic vision are superior to anything in Asia. If he can destroy 30,000 Ottomans, he can conquer anyone. The Uzbeks, the Mughals, the Afghan remnants, anyone who stands between Persia and restored greatness. Garni wasn't an end, it was a beginning. The beginning of the largest conquest campaign Persia has attempted in centuries. The Persian prince, Tahmasp, thinks Garni is his victory. He didn't command the army, he didn't plan the battle. He wasn't even present. But he's the Shah, and Shahs claim credit for victories won in their name. After Garni, Tahmasp starts making decisions without consulting Nader. He signs treaties Nader opposes. He appoints officials Nader doesn't trust. He acts like a real Shah instead of Nader's puppet. He believes that Garni's glory makes him powerful. He's wrong. Garni's glory belongs to Nader. The soldiers know it. The people know it. Tahmasp is delusional if he thinks otherwise. Nader tolerates this for a while. He has campaigns to run, Uzbek territories to conquer, Indian provinces to plunder. He doesn't have time to deal with an delusional Shah. But Tahmasp keeps making terrible decisions. He gives away territories Nader conquered. He negotiates from weakness when Persia is strong. He undermines military authority. Finally, in 1736, Nader decides enough is enough. The Safavid dynasty has been useful. Tahmasp provided legitimacy when Nader needed it. But legitimacy doesn't require keeping incompetent rulers in power. Not when those rulers are actively damaging everything Nader built. The deposition is surprisingly bloodless. Nader doesn't murder Tahmasp. He doesn't need to. He summons the Persian nobility and tribal leaders to a great assembly. Thousands of delegates gathering in one location. Nader makes his case. The Safavids have failed Persia. They lost the empire to Afghan invaders. They couldn't defend their own capital. I rebuilt what they destroyed. I reconquered what they lost. I defeated enemies they couldn't face. Why should they rule? Why should incompetence be rewarded? The assembly agrees, almost unanimously. Some delegates because they genuinely believe Nader deserves the throne. Some because they're afraid of what happens if they oppose him. But the result is the same. The Safavid dynasty is finished. Nader is crowned Shah of Persia. Nader Shah, the slave who became king, the general who destroyed empires, the man who proved at Garni that genius matters more than numbers. His coronation is magnificent. Delegates from across Asia attend. Ottoman envoys present gifts. Mughal representatives pay respects. Everyone wants to be on good terms with the man who commands the most effective army in Asia. Everyone wants to avoid being his next target. Everyone remembers what happened at Garni when 30,000 soldiers thought they had guaranteed victory. Everyone understands that underestimating Nader Shah is fatal. Nader Shah's reign won't be peaceful. It can't be. He built his power on military success. He maintains legitimacy through continuous victory. If he stops conquering, if he stops winning, his power base erodes. So he keeps campaigning. He invades Mughal India in 1738. His army reaches Delhi, the Mughal capital. The city surrenders without major resistance because nobody wants to fight the man who destroyed the Ottomans. Nader loots Delhi's treasury. He takes the peacock throne. He seizes the Koh-i-Noor diamond. He returns to Persia with wealth beyond imagination, enough gold to fund his government for years without taxing his people. But conquering is easier than governing. Nader is a military genius. He understands battlefield tactics better than anyone in his generation. But statecraft isn't his strength. He's impatient with administrative details. He's suspicious of subordinates. He sees conspiracies everywhere, sometimes real, sometimes imagined. The victories continue, but the paranoia grows. Officers who served him for years are executed for suspected disloyalty. Advisors who offer honest counsel are dismissed or imprisoned. Tax collectors who can't meet impossible demands are punished. The brilliant general who won at Garni is becoming a tyrant who trusts no one. The transformation is gradual but inevitable. Victory requires ruthlessness. Paranoia protects against real conspiracies, but ruthlessness becomes cruelty. Paranoia becomes insanity. By the 1740s, Nader Shah is a different man than the commander who planned Garni. He's blind in one eye from an assassination attempt. He's suffering from what might be mental illness. He makes irrational decisions. He orders mass executions. He punishes entire cities for suspected opposition. The people who once celebrated him as Persia's savior now fear him as a mad tyrant. The officers who once followed him loyally now plot his removal. On June 19, 1747, a group of his own guards assassinate Nader Shah in his tent. They're desperate men. Some have been marked for execution based on suspicions of disloyalty. Some are loyal soldiers pushed too far by a commander who's lost his sanity. They enter his tent at night. They stab him multiple times. Nader Shah, who survived countless battles, who defeated the greatest armies in Asia, who created an empire through military genius, dies at the hands of his own men. The empire dies with him. His sons fight over succession. Tribal leaders reclaim independence. The territories he conquered break away. Within years, Nader's empire has collapsed into chaos. But none of that diminishes Garni. None of that changes what he accomplished in that Armenian valley. The Battle of Garni remains one of history's most perfect tactical victories. Not because Nader killed 20,000 enemies. Anyone can kill with sufficient numbers. Killing isn't genius. Killing is arithmetic. Garni was genius because Nader made the Ottomans kill themselves. He created conditions where his smaller force became an overwhelming advantage. He turned terrain everyone thought favored the Ottomans into a trap that destroyed them. He proved that in warfare, perception matters as much as reality. Make your enemies see what they want to see. Let them commit to the obvious move, then destroy them with the move they never imagined. The Battle of Garni remains one of history's most perfect tactical victories, not because Nader killed 20,000 enemies, because he made them kill themselves. He created conditions where his smaller force became an overwhelming advantage. He turned a terrain everyone thought favored the Ottomans into a trap that destroyed them. He proved that in warfare, perception matters as much as reality. Make your enemy see what they want to see. Let them commit to the obvious move, then destroy them with the move they never imagined. Military academies study Garni today, not as history, as education. How to create battlefield conditions that favor your strength, how to disguise weakness as strength, how to make the enemy's advantages become disadvantages. The principles Nader used in 1735 still work. They'll always work. Because human psychology doesn't change, generals still see what they expect to see. Armies still commit to obvious strategies, and a commander who understands that will always have an advantage. The old temple at Garni still stands. Tourists visit it. They photograph the columns. They admire the architecture. Most don't know that in the valley below 20,000 men died because one general was smarter than another. Most don't realize they're standing on ground where military history changed, where the Ottoman century of expansion was stopped, where a slave became the most feared general in Asia, where tactical genius proved that sometimes the best place to be is exactly where your enemy wants you to be. Because if you're in the trap, and they're in the trap, and only you know it's a trap, then it's not your trap anymore. It's theirs. And Nader Shah understood that better than anyone in his century. That's why 30,000 Ottomans marched into Garni Valley. That's why 20,000 never marched out. That's why one afternoon in Armenia changed the balance of power in Asia. Not because of numbers, not because of technology. Because one man saw the battlefield differently than everyone else. And that made all the difference.